they are the correct, vessel that can do all three. An obelisk is only an earth element, so it's missing the other elements, so it can't do what the vessel of our bodies can do, because our bodies have equipped within them the pineal function, the sacral function, and the solar plexus function. So it can only be done through a human vessel. And then I did a lot of research about Dot, or Doth, or Dot, or however you pronounce it. And, Doth is the throat, okay? Which is like the secondary sacral area. It's the area where, it's the area of the, I guess I can say it's kind of like the area where both sides meet, I guess, or both where the mirror kind of breaks or whatever between the two hemispheres. So it's not necessarily that there has to be something taking place within the physical sacrals of the masculine and the feminine, because the physical sacrals can also represent Doth, which is the throat or the mouth. So, but like I said, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that is, obviously. I have ideas about it, but that doesn't mean that those ideas are correct. They're just what I think. But the main point I'm trying to make here is that there is a sacral, the seal, the seventh seal, or the final seal, or the last seal, which is the great seal. It's the last seal, really, that enacts this movement, or this action, because it's all about action. It's about, releasing the stagnancy of the feminine, how the feminine has been motionless and stagnant for so long, because its concepts have been taken to represent that to the extreme. So, you know, you can represent these things, but then you can over-represent them, and then they can become your tomb, right? They can become your detriment. And so this is why you have to balance the elements, right? So that they work together. And this is the process of having them work together. And I think a lot of this has to do with the book that I wrote, or not wrote, I'm sorry, that I read. That I get a lot of inspiration from. And this book is called Anatomy of the Soul. And I've gotten so much out of this book, but one of the main things that I really got a lot out of was the story about the allegory of Sarah and her husband Abraham, and how Sarah represents the speech. Okay, she represents the speech of Abraham being in exile, and it's taken into exile by Pharaoh, who represents false speech, or speech being exiled, right? So Pharaoh exiles the speech to the stomach and keeps it locked away and trapped so that it can't release. Okay, so releasing Sarah, which is the equivalent of the speech of Abraham, or Abraham's speech, is like this idea of the act of forging the speech into the sacral, which is Doth, so that it can channel through, because we're trying to channel, we're trying to break the block on the throat, or on the speech. We already have the thoughts, we have the capability of the thoughts, but we have to forge them into the throat and speak them out. But then there's that last component, because just because we speak them out doesn't mean anything's going to actually happen, right? I could have it all figured out, but if I'm missing something, then it's not effective, right? Because that's a part of the, security system to keeping things stable within the stream. The stream has to have extreme stability for it to constitute its laws, for its laws to be sound, and for them to, for us to remain here. If we had these flimsy laws, then, there would be no stability to this place. This realm would have no stability, right? But I think what we've been given or sold as a lie is that this place can only reflect the current laws that we have, and that there is possibly other tunes or other, channels. When you dial something, when you're tuning something, you're desiring it, you're trying to get the desired channel or sound or pitch, right? And there's different pitches, there's different, ways that the reality can reflect within the vessel, or this place, this world. So it doesn't have to reflect as what it currently is. There's different ways that it can be expressed and lived within. We're just living in a more sharp, flat type of note. If it goes by the notes, if it goes by music and the scale and sound and all of the gradient system of music, then this reality would reflect something like kind of like an ugly sound, like something ugly and sharp and shrill, But that sound doesn't have to be that, the conductor can change, and that's what Christ represents is the conduction. The conductor can change the pitches of the bowls, to reflect something more harmonic, something that has more harmony and is less sharp and shrill and ugly. You have music in different soundtracks in different points of a movie, right? And the type of scene that you're in by the music that you're listening to. I mean, the music is a huge part of the emotion attached to the scene. So just think of it that way. Like when you're in a horror movie, the music is very stabbing and sharp, and it's scary and ugly, and it invokes some fear into you, right? But it gives you this like intense, suspenseful energy that makes you feel uncomfortable and unsafe. And I feel like that's what the sound of this reality is currently pitched to right now. And so, like, Jesus has the responsibility or the power through his action of speech and then translating that speech into the sacral to change the pitch to something better. Like, it doesn't, like, what I'm saying is it doesn't always have to reflect as what it is right now. It's just that way because of our lack of our account, our lack of the exile of information, forgetfulness. There's a article that I read about how the neck is seen as the place of forgetfulness, or the place where we parted ways from the mind or the original account, right? Got separated from us. And so we were in exile. We lost the original account, and that is the cause of the music of our chakras being in this like horrific kind of soundtrack right now. The soundtrack is ugly. It's dark. It's confusing. It's not pretty. So I guess that can change, right? Well, I don't guess. I feel like I know, but it's interesting because knowledge is the chakra that is known as it's not a chakra, right? It's not a chakra, it's Thoth. Thoth is knowledge. And knowledge in the Bible specifically to know means to, like, to touch, right? Or to be tangible. Now, there's also more forms of it, meaning, like, to, like, for Adam and Eve was for them to know each other, was for them to, for the sexual act, right? To copulate or whatever, to then forge something from that into a physical vessel, right, is basically the end game of that. And so, the point I'm trying to make here is that knowledge is about the last step in knowledge anyway. It's not just the only step, it's the last step, really, is how I should put it. The last step in knowing the truth is this act that occurs within the sacral, okay? Between the masculine and the feminine hemisphere. So that's what we're missing here, and that's why we're still here. Because it hasn't taken place yet. But Sarah and her speech and how she represents the sarcophagus right now, and it's interesting because the word sarcophagus kind of reminds me of the word of Sarah and coffin, right? Sarah plus coffin. Like Sarah is in a coffin when she is in exile away from forging this trinity, because that's what this is. The trinity of the wind tunnel, or the step of the process of funneling everything back and then redialing it in the pineal, or wherever it takes place, that all of everything gets edited and changed and fixed. The pitches and sound and the whole vibe of this place gets changed, right? And re-edited, and time and space and all of these things get re-edited or whatever. Is all based off of forging from the pine into the last, the great eighth seal. The eighth seal, I believe, is Thoth. Is the missing Sephiroth, or the Sephiroth that they say is not a Sephiroth because it's a meeting point of all the 10 Sephiroth into Thoth, right? And so, will all 10 Sephiroth from one side and all 10 Sephiroth from the other gather into that meeting place, right? It's actually 19, sorry. I try to be precise, but, yeah, because you have 8 from one side and 8 from the other, and then the masculine and the feminine share the middle pillar, or the earth, which is what they're sitting, or what they're standing on. They're standing on Malchut, and Malchut is the 10th Sephiroth that is shared between both masculine and feminine tree. So that comes to 19, okay? So, the 8th seal for each Sephiroth, or for each tree, goes into Malchut, which is the middle garden, okay? Which is the gate between, at the feet of both the masculine and the feminine, right? It's the meeting point of Adam and Eve in the garden, where they go back into the garden, right? And Adam and Eve are the 2 trees of the masculine and the feminine pillar, meeting. It's going back to Genesis, going back to the beginning, going back to Eden again, right? But in order for that to happen, like I said, these 3 chakras of, or these 3, like, components, basically, that exist within the middle pillar of the masculine and the feminine, have to stop only mirroring each other, and they have to merge or break that central point, so that they're no longer mirroring each other. So they're going into they're going into each other to escape the other side, bipolarity, whatever, like that. So, okay, I'm going past. I don't want to go past 15 minutes, so, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks.